on Goblin Reddit. Today's story is...
My older sister secretly filmed me to humiliate me at my 18th birthday party, but she never imagined that my revenge would completely destroy our whole family. Hi everyone, I'm Dixie. I'm 18 and my older sister Bethany is 20. Unlike many of the stories I've read here, Bethany has real reasons for being my parents' favorite. It's not something unfounded. She has it all. She is extremely attractive, brilliant academically. She was president of the student council, and she was even crowned prom queen. She has always been the star that everyone admires. Meanwhile, although I do well in my studies, I have never been very interested in extracurricular activities. And since my parents love precisely those activities, you can imagine who got all their attention. We have a peculiar situation with birthdays. You see, mine falls just 2 days after Bethany's, which means that every year they organized a huge celebration for her. They invited all her friends, the whole extended family, absolutely everyone. It was quite an event with elaborate decorations, an impressive cake, lots of presents, everything you can imagine. But when my birthday came around, the excuse was always the same. We can't invite anyone again so soon. So I ended up with a small celebration that hardly deserves a mention. It's not that they didn't do anything for me, but I always had the feeling that they didn't want me to steal the limelight during what they considered Bethany's week. Yes, you heard right. Her birthdays lasted a whole week because they were events of the utmost importance to them. To give you a better context, my relationship with Bethany has always been complicated. Sometimes she acted as if I were invisible, while at other times she could be really cruel. But then, about a week before Bethany's last birthday, something completely unexpected happened. Suddenly, she started taking an interest in my life for the first time. She sincerely asked me how I was, what was wrong. We spent hours talking. I started sharing some of the things that were bothering me, just as she shared some of hers, like the anxiety I'd been feeling lately, especially with college approaching. I even mentioned that I was considering seeing a therapist, because I honestly think I need to. We seemed to be really connecting, which I attributed to the fact that I would soon be leaving for college and she didn't want us to part on bad terms. Maybe I had grown up. So, naturally, when my birthday came around, I was excited. I thought, maybe this year will be different. Bethany insisted that I should have a big party because I was going to university and turning 18, and to my surprise, my parents agreed. They got completely involved, and for the first time, I wasn't going to be forgotten. I invited all my friends, my family, basically anyone I could think of, and they all came. Bethany was even making a special video for me, which she planned to show on the big TV during the party. She said it would be the highlight of the night. Everything was going perfectly. I thought I was finally having the birthday I had always dreamed of. But then reality hit me hard. My Aunt Ruby, 45, took me aside during the party. I thought she just wanted to congratulate me, but no, she had something else in mind. She asked me if I needed help with anything, which left me confused. Apparently, Bethany had shown her this video that I had made of myself talking about my anxiety, about how I was thinking of seeking therapeutic help, and basically everything that I had confided in her. Not only had she recorded me without my consent, but now she planned to show it to everyone present. I was so furious I didn't know how to control myself. And then it got worse. Aunt Ruby explained to me that Bethany had many other videos as well, videos where she talked about my crushes, some strange dates I had been on, and personal things I thought were private. My sister wanted to play one last joke on me, exposing my privacy in front of everyone. To be honest, at that moment I was beyond furious. I wanted to do something that would make her feel the same as I was feeling. So I decided to act. Bethany has a secret Instagram account, you know? One that she uses for all her private stuff. She even has one specifically for our parents in the family, but I had never had access to it. Like I said, I was furious and determined to make sure she knew how it felt. So I did what any hurt sister would do. I took her phone without permission. I know, taking other people's stuff is wrong, but you can't fight these kinds of people by behaving correctly. Her password was extremely easy to guess. Seriously, too easy. It was her birthday. So I accessed her secret Instagram, and there was her whole hidden life, the one she thought nobody knew about. I took all the photos from her account, pictures of her at parties, kissing boys, and even one where she was kissing a girl. It's like she was this perfect, blameless person to the family, and now I had something I could use against her. So what did I do? I took those photos and showed them to everyone at the party on the television. And it was worth it, because I got a certain satisfaction from seeing her face go red when everyone started to see her secret life. And here we are. My parents are furious. Bethany is furious. And I, honestly, am quite happy with what happened. I mean, yes, I sought revenge, but it's not like I revealed anything really damaging. They were just as little secrets that he thought he could hide from everyone. But now, the whole family knows about them. And yes, I probably shouldn't have gone that far, but at the time, I felt it was a way of hitting back at him for betraying my trust. So Reddit, did I go too far with this? Was it wrong to expose her secrets like that? Or was it a justified response to her betrayal? I know I can't trust my family to give an objective opinion. I know my parents would support or minimize what she did, while they would consider what I did unforgivable. Update 1. Exactly a week has passed since my previous post, and with everything that has happened in my story, it is time to update, because if I wait any longer it will become too long a post. I thought that after a few days things would go back to normal. It's not like I physically hurt my sister. I just showed photos of her having fun. Maybe some awkwardness, some tense conversations, and then life would go on as usual. But no, my parents exploded with fury, completely enraged, the kind of anger from which there is no going back. After the TV incident, my parents were furious with both of us. I thought they would at least listen to me and understand why I did what I did, but no, in their eyes, I committed an unforgivable crime by exposing my sister's secret. According to the comments, my parents could be more upset about the photo of the kiss with a woman than about the others, but I think what has upset them the most is seeing her kissing different people. Those are the family secrets they prefer to keep from the rest. The irony is that Bethany did exactly the same thing to me, but worse, because she videotaped me without my knowledge and was ready to publicly humiliate me in front of everyone. But somehow, that didn't matter. What mattered was that she had exposed the golden child. My mom would scream about how ashamed she was of Bethany, which I understand. Some of those photos were quite festive, anyway. But let's face it, it wouldn't have been a problem if our family wasn't so traditional. But instead of focusing on how bad it was that Bethany violated my trust first, they turned on me. They said I was just as bad for doing something so vindictive, for embarrassing the family in front of all our relatives. My father insists that this is not how we solve problems in this family. But what am I supposed to do when every time I try to solve things properly, they ignore me? When I try to express how I feel, they reject me. When I try to defend myself, they accuse me of creating drama. And now, apparently, when I get a modicum of justice, I'm the one ruining the family's reputation? Then they drop the bomb. They're throwing me out of the house. Yes, they actually said it. My father told me directly that I had a week to find another place to stay because they can't have someone who doesn't respect the family living under their roof. At first I thought they were lying, that they were words spoken in a moment of anger, but no, they meant it completely. I tried to explain my side of the story again, but they didn't want to listen. My mother kept shaking her head, repeating, "You've crossed the line, Dixie. You don't do that to your own sister." But strangely, I don't see her kicking Bethany out of the house, just me. Bethany, by the way, hasn't even tried to defend me. Not that I expected her to, but part of me thought she might feel some guilt. But no, she's just crying, playing the victim, acting as if I'd ruined her life. I heard her tell my mom that she didn't even mean to hurt me, and that the video she made was supposed to be something fun and lighthearted. As if showing all my private thoughts, my anxieties, my romantic feelings and personal struggles were something to laugh about. And the worst part, my parents believed her. My mom said, "She wasn't trying to humiliate you, Dixie. She just made a mistake." Oh, so she makes a mistake and gets sympathy. I get revenge and I get kicked out of the house. Try to make sense of that. So now I have a week to decide what to do. I was supposed to take a gap year before college. I'm still waiting for confirmation of admission, so it's not like I can just pack my bags and move into a student residence. I have a job, but it's not enough to afford my own accommodation, not even a small studio. I have some savings, but, again, they're nowhere near enough for a rental deposit, and to get by. I'm terrified, to be honest. I've never lived alone before, and I have no idea how I'm going to manage. I suppose I could try staying with a friend, but that's a long shot. Most of my friends still live with their parents, and I doubt their families would be keen on taking in someone else, especially with all the family drama involved. I have some family members, but considering they were all at the party and witnessed everything that happened, I doubt they'd be willing to take my side. Aunt Ruby might be an option, as she at least seemed concerned when she warned me about the video, but she's always preferred to stay out of family conflicts, so I don't know if she'd want to get involved. I've been looking for cheap rooms to rent, but the prices are absurd, and most require deposits that I simply can't afford. I could try to get a second job, but that would take time, and I only have a week. I feel like I'm running out of options, and honestly, I'm devastated. Not so much about leaving home, but about the fact that my parents were willing to throw me out so easily. I always knew they preferred Bethany, but I guess part of me hoped they still loved me enough not to abandon me like this. So Reddit, any advice on what you would do in my situation? I'm open to any suggestions at this point. Update 2. I know you've been asking about my story for the last 2 months, but please understand that I've been busy with more urgent matters like finding a place to live. But I didn't forget about you, and every day I thought that when my situation improved a little I would write an update. However, my life has not improved at all. There is always some problem to solve. After my parents kicked me out, I first asked Aunt Ruby if I could stay with her for a few months until I got my university results. She refused, saying she didn't have a space, which I can understand. Then I asked my grandparents, thinking they would surely agree because, they're my grandparents. And they basically gave me the same answer. At that point, I was starting to panic. I had a job and some savings, but definitely not enough to get my own place. I was seriously considering sleeping in my car or looking for spare sofas from people I barely knew. That's how desperate I was. But then my wonderful friend Brenda stepped in. She asked her parents if I could stay with them for a while, and they agreed. I had also spoken to other friends before, and they all gave me similar answers to my families in one way or another. So Brenda was my salvation. I moved in with Brenda's family, and they have been extremely kind to me. They don't make me feel like a burden, although sometimes I definitely feel that way. I try to help out as much as possible, washing dishes, cooking, running errands, because the last thing I want is for them to regret giving me a chance. But then my parents decided there wasn't enough drama for them, so they started harassing Brenda's parents, literally accosting them after church to tell them they were interfering with their plans by letting me stay. Apparently, they thought kicking me out would teach me a lesson, and Brenda's family was getting in the way of that plan. What was the lesson supposed to be? That I should accept being treated like trash? That I should apologize for existing? Fortunately, Brenda's parents are decent people, and they put a stop to it quickly. They told my parents that throwing out a daughter for such a petty drama didn't teach any lessons. It was just cruel. Meanwhile, Bethany got off with just a warning. That is to say, my parents said they would cut her financial support if she didn't change her attitude, but of course, they did nothing about it. She's still at home, living her life, and probably kissing more people. Not that I consider kissing several people to be wrong, but by my parents' standards it is, and yet she doesn't need to learn a lesson. Typical preferential treatment for the favorite daughter. And I'm not going to lie, living with Brenda's family has been strange. Not because of them. They've been wonderful, but because I feel a peculiar mixture of gratitude and guilt. I'm immensely grateful that they took me in, but I also keep thinking, why did it have to come to this? Why did my own family reject me so easily? It's hard not to let that get to me. I've also been getting messages from Bethany, who keeps telling me she's going to ruin my life, just like I ruined hers. And honestly, at first I thought she was just being dramatic. Like, yes, I exposed her secret Instagram, but let's face it, she wasn't an innocent victim in all this. At first, I ignored her messages, but they kept coming. Some were little taunts, like, I hope you enjoy being homeless, loser, and others were completely irrational, like, I'll make sure you regret messing with me. I don't even know what she thinks she can do, but the constant harassment started to get to me. I started to feel anxious every time my phone vibrated, fearing it was another message from her. It was so intense that I finally started seeing a therapist. Admitting that I needed therapy was a big step for me. My family has always been the type that considers therapy for people who are weak or who are looking for excuses for their bad behavior. Although I always knew that I needed help, I had never considered it a real option until now. But it was Brenda's parents who encouraged me, and it has helped me enormously. But just when I was starting to regain some control over my life, of course, something else had to go wrong. Last week, I was accepted to one of the universities I applied to. It wasn't my first choice, but it was better than my backup options, so I was actually quite excited. The problem? My formal acceptance letter and financial aid package were sent to my parents' address, which meant I had to go back to their house to pick them up. I knew it would be awkward, but I thought, okay, maybe they'd let me collect my things and leave. They could at least pretend to be civilized for 5 minutes, right? Wrong. I got to the house and knocked on the door. No one answered. I rang the bell, nothing. I tried calling my mother's phone, and it went straight to voicemail. So I rang again, and again and again. I stood outside the door for a full hour, waiting. At one point, I even saw movement through the window, so I knew she was inside. She just refused to open the door for me. How petty can a person be? You kick out your own daughter, and then when she comes back for important documents, you deliberately ignore her. I was getting more and more frustrated, but I didn't want to start screaming outside like a madwoman, so I left. Now I have no idea what to do. My financial aid package is in that letter, and I need it urgently. The university said they sent it by regular mail, so there's no tracking number or anything to trace it. I already contacted them, and they said they could send me another one, but it would take a couple of weeks. And I'm not sure I have that kind of time. I also don't know if my mom really threw away the letter, or if she's just holding on to it out of spite. Update 3. So yes, I ended up waiting for the second package, because there really wasn't much else I could do. But of course, nothing in my life is simple, it never is. It turns out that I still needed a bunch of documents from my parents for financial aid. Things like tax returns, signatures, proof of income, all the stuff that normal parents would just provide for their daughter without turning it into an all-out war. But as we've established, my parents aren't normal. At first, I tried asking them nicely via text. No response. I called straight to voicemail. Brenda even suggested I try to get one of my aunts to talk to them on my behalf, but that didn't work either. Aunt Ruby was barely willing to help me when I needed a place to stay, and the rest of my family was either indifferent or actively avoiding me. So I had to get creative, and that's when I realized exactly where my parents would be that Sunday. At church. Now, before you think I went in and made a dramatic, soap opera-style scene, I didn't. I simply waited for the service to end, approached them in front of the pastor, and started to speak out loud. I was polite, I was respectful, but I made sure that everyone nearby could hear me. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I really need those documents for my financial aid. Can we talk about it now? And oh my, the expressions on their faces. Yes, I made them feel uncomfortable, but all's fair in war, right? I could see what they were thinking. Do we make a scene in the church, or do we help her? They reluctantly agreed, but the moment we left, my mother grabbed my arm, pulled me aside, and scolded me in a low voice. What kind of game are you playing? I looked her straight in the eye and said, if you try to sabotage my admission to university, I will make sure that everyone in this church knows exactly what kind of parents you are. I will make sure that you are so ashamed that you can never show your faces here again. You have ignored me, you have belittled me, you have made me feel insignificant, just because I am not Bethany. But the moment I turned the tables and used their own game against them, suddenly they wanted to cooperate. In short, they gave me all the documents I needed. I got their signatures. I checked everything thoroughly before I left. And the best thing is, that was it. I'll never have to deal with them again. I have everything I need to move forward. Update 4. My mom had to make one last move before I left. I'm going to university tomorrow. I still haven't fully processed it, but I'm both excited and scared at the same time. I was trying to be responsible, making a list of everything I needed to pack, and I realized that there were still a lot of my belongings left at home. Things like clothes, blankets, and some personal items that really mean a lot to me, normal things that any reasonable person would assume I could take with me. I sent my mother a message, just out of courtesy. I wasn't even asking for permission, I just said, "Hey, I'm going to come by and pick up the rest of my stuff." She ignored my message. She didn't even bother to reply. I should have sensed something was up at that point. Anyway, I went the next day. The front door was unlocked, so I just walked in. I thought, well, technically it's still my house too, isn't it? I used to live here. My room was still my room, my things were still my things, or so I thought. I started packing, not paying much attention to anything else, when suddenly my mother burst into the room. She just burst in as if she had caught me stealing from her house. "What do you think you're doing?" she asked me, completely dramatic. I just looked at her, holding a half-folded sweatshirt in my hands. Packing. She crossed her arms and gave me that look, you know, the motherly look, the one that means things are about to get ugly. "That's not yours," she said. I literally laughed because I thought she was joking. I bought some of the stuff with my own money, my clothes, my books, even my own sheets. What was she talking about? But no, she was completely serious. She said that, as she and my father had bought most of those things over the years, they belonged to them. And as I had decided to disrespect the family, I had no right to take anything. I was just standing there, looking at her, trying to process what kind of madness I was witnessing. And then she just snatched the suitcase from me, physically took it from me as if she were punishing a small child, and ordered me to leave. I said to her, "I can leave, but I'll see you at the church if I can't take the things that belong to me. I could go to the police, but I think the church will have better results." She gave me back my suitcase and went off to the kitchen puffing because she knew I had won. I was able to gather all my belongings and leave. The last few days have been a whirlwind. Between packing, buying everything I needed at the last minute, and getting organized, I've hardly had time to sit down and write this. Brenda's family have been incredible. They even organized a little farewell dinner last night. Update 5. I think this must be the first update where I don't have a personal problem to report. There was always something new happening with my family, but being so far away from them, things seem to resolve themselves as if by magic. It's not really magic, just eliminating toxicity from your life pays off. But this update won't be about my life and how happy I am. I think that would be a bit boring. Instead, I bring you the latest news about my parents and my sister. You will notice that I don't say about my family, because now there are two clearly defined sides, my parents and my sisters. It could seem that I had bad luck or good luck, depending on how you analyze what happened at my birthday party almost a year ago. First, let me explain what has happened recently, and then I will share my opinion. My parents hosted a dinner a few nights ago with friends from church. My father had an emergency that forced him to return home because I will simply say that he does not like to use public restrooms. He needs to use the one in his house, and more specifically, the one in his room. But on the way to the bathroom, he passed Bethany's room. And he didn't find her kissing a boy or doing things reserved for marriage. According to my parents' vision, he found her recording a video. You might think it was a dance for TikTok following some kind of choreography, or an influencer-type video for Instagram, but no. Maybe there was choreography. I can't say for sure or deny it, but the video was for another platform. Something my father discovered when he asked her what she was doing with so little clothing on. My parents may be traditional, but they watch the news and know exactly what OnlyFans is. So my father immediately called my mother to ask her to come back from the restaurant as quickly as possible so that they could both confront their daughter. I always thought that my parents could forgive Beth anything, but it seems that they too have their limits. And that limit is that kind of content. The decision they made was to throw her out of the house. She studies at a local university, so she was still living with them, at least until this incident. Now, how did I find out about all this? Because I received a message from the person who seemed to be the best sister in the world, because she wanted to move in with me. She told me about the whole situation and asked if she could live with me in my university room for a while. Although I would have loved to have her with me, I'm being completely ironic. The truth is that I can't allow anyone to live there. I have a roommate, and there's barely enough space for us not to bump into each other when we're both there. So no, I don't want to, and I can't accommodate her, especially knowing that she would be creating that kind of content. My question is, why didn't she look for her own place, since people on that platform supposedly make good money? But she told me she was only doing it to get some extra money to go out partying, and that she was doing it for fun. She had temporarily moved in with a friend, but things didn't end there, far from it. By the time she called me to ask if she could stay with me, as her friend didn't have much space, and she didn't want me to film those things at her house, she also told me about what she did with my parents. Before asking me, which was the last option on her list, she went to church on Sunday, just like I did at the time. She knew what had happened and how it had worked out for me, so she used my tactic to try to get back into my parents' house. But my parents couldn't get her to go somewhere private to talk before she mentioned OnlyFans in front of several people in the congregation. What's more, the conversation wasn't whispered, but when everything came out, they started a big shouting match that forced the pastor to intervene to end the argument. I don't know if it was the mention of OnlyFans or just the public fight, but Brenda told me that my parents were asked to find another church. So, was I really unlucky that I didn't find their OnlyFans account, which would have been an even more shocking revenge? Or maybe I was really lucky, because things would have escalated even worse for me. They probably would have kicked me out of the house anyway, so the result would have been similar. But at least I would have had the satisfaction of having done it myself.